What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. My guest today is Kathryn Andries. Now, Kathryn is a nationally known author, teacher, and public speaker. Her books include Soul Choices, 6 Paths to Finding Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. My guest today is Kathryn Andries. Now, Kathryn is a nationally known author, teacher, and public speaker. Her books include Soul Choices, 6 Paths to Finding Your Life's Purpose, and Soul Choices, 6 Paths to Fulfilling Relationships. Now, Kathryn has hosted her own television show called Discover Your Life's Purpose and is a frequent guest on radio programs. She also co-founded the School of Intuitive Arts and Sciences, where she teaches astrology, numerology, palm reading, eye analysis, past lives, and family birth. Now, Kathryn has earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Michigan and an Holistic Health Practitioner degree from Mind Body College in California. She joins me today to discuss dreams and relationships. Kathryn Andries, welcome to the show.
Great, I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Kevin.
Well, you're back on. I'm just going to link up your previous interview just at the bottom of this interview. So if people want to see your previous interview, which I think was based on life purpose. That was it. That's what you came on last time for. Yes, and we got a good response from that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well you've done a couple of books on dreams, and does your books as well? They cover relationships.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So okay, well today we're going to mix it up a bit. We're going to be discussing dreams and relationships because they do tie in together, don't they?
Oh, they definitely do. They really support each other, and they're dreams are a great tool for greater self-awareness, for building a better relationships with ourselves as well as with other people.
Absolutely. Now, just for those who may not watch the first video or haven't seen it, just for the audience, just give us a bit of background about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Well, I really started out on the metaphysical path, trying to understand the whole concept of life purpose. How do we figure out what we're here to do? And so that led me to study 6 different paths to self-awareness. So I looked at paths of astrology, palmistry, iris analysis, past lives, numerology, and birth order. And as I studied these 6 different paths, I saw that each one revealed what our gifts and talents are and what our challenges are, which is really what makes up our life purpose. So when we get a full view of ourselves through these 6 paths, we get a clear understanding of what are the gifts we're here to bring, what are the lessons we're here to overcome. So I really focused a lot of my career really teaching to people about understanding the life purpose. And of course, through that, I got so many people that had relationship questions, relationship issues. And so I said, well, I'm going to apply all this knowledge that I have about these 6 paths to relationships. So I also then focus a lot of my work on helping people understand their relationships. And another one of my passions in metaphysics is the study of dreams, which has always been interesting to people and is an extremely beneficial tool for greater self-awareness. So those are the 3 main areas where I'm focused in my studies. And so I do classes, private readings, and books on all those topics.
Okay, absolutely you do. And okay. Well, I really want to get into relationships. We're going to start with dreams first. But just with those 2 areas, what sort of if someone's watching this that's international, what sort of services could you offer them as well?
Well, most of our readings can be done through Skype, so people can go to our website, which is kathrynandries.com, and they can order any of the readings, and luckily, because the beauty of technology, they can be done, long distance. People can purchase the book through Barnes & Noble, all the various books. So basically, all the services that I offer locally can also be done internationally as well.
Okay, wonderful. All right then. That's dreams is a very interesting subject for people as well. Some have said on this show that actually when we dream, that's the real reality. This is not the actual reality. Yet to me, a dream always seems so foggy. Yet this seems so clear right now.
Yeah, that's the big question, which is reality, our waking life or the dream life. Really, they both are, in the sense that basically what's happening when we go into the dream state is we're shutting off the conscious mind and moving into the subconscious and superconscious mind. So they're all a part of us, the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious. So it's really just a matter of shifting the focus from one area of the mind to the other. And of course, the subconscious mind, which is where the soul resides, is the deeper part of ourselves, is the permanent part of ourselves. So we are actually more at home when we are in that subconscious realm. And the dreams are a way for that subconscious to communicate to our conscious mind about what really we have been thinking about, our attitudes and thoughts about everything going on during the day.
Yeah, that is so true. And just out of curiosity as well, what sort of books influenced you when you were younger? I mean, was it Edgar Casey or some other people's sort of material that came
You
across,
must
or
be
channeled
psychic
material?
because Edgar Casey was a big one. I obviously chose a family that was not interested or involved in religion, so I kind of had to find my own way. So I was maybe 13, and I just went to the library, and I was drawn to books on Edgar Casey, Ruth Montgomery. Eventually, I got into reading books by Shirley MacLaine, Out on a Limb. That was a big one, eye opener for me. But those were the main, classical people that really helped pave my path in metaphysics.
Yeah, I thought it was Edgar Casey for you. How weird is that? Um, um, okay, what can we do to better remember our dreams? Because I think that's where it starts to begin with. And also, just before you answer that, do you think that dreams are a way for the higher self to be talking to us? It's a communication tool that all-knowing part of us will come through on and into the dream, in a sense, or create the dream for us. Or it's us creating that dream, but it's our higher self.
Well, it is definitely a message from the subconscious mind to our conscious mind. So it is a way for those two minds to communicate. And of course, at night, when our conscious mind goes to sleep, we're finally quiet enough to be able to hear what the subconscious is trying to tell us. So it is definitely a communication from that part of ourselves. And we dream every night. A lot of people say, oh, well, no, because I don't remember my dreams. Well, you do dream every night, whether or not you remember them or not. So here's some great techniques to help improve recall. So the first thing I would suggest, number one, is just go get a spiral notebook. Doesn't have to be a big fancy dream journal, and put it by the side of your bed. And last thing before going to sleep is to actually write out the sentence, I will remember my dreams, and say it out loud to yourself. First thing in the morning, you want to give yourself some extra time. So set your alarm clock 15 minutes early. So this is the stage, what we call the reverie state in the morning, where you're in between sleeping and being totally awake, where that dream is still very clear. And so if you have the time to write it down, it will you won't be stressed. It'll come to you easier. That's another thing. Another great tool to help improve your dream recall is to create some kind of relaxing nighttime routine before you go to bed so that your mind is clear and not worried about all these things going on in your day. So for some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's a warm bath. Whatever it is, to calm the mind before bed, you'll get to sleep quicker, and your conscious mind will be put to sleep, so to speak, right? Because it's not full of worries about the conscious, things going on in your life. The dream will have a better chance of getting through to you. Also, throughout the day, here's something people can do. Stop multitasking and practice, what Eckhart Tolle has been teaching, which is being in the present moment. Because if you're really focused throughout the day, paying attention to everything going on, you will be more likely to be receptive to the dream state when you have been focused during the day. And people can do an experiment. If you're multitasking all day, your mind's in one place, your body's in another, you're doing all these different things, at the end of the day, you probably won't even remember what you did at 1 o'clock the same day. But when you're truly focused, your mind is sharp and you will remember. And so that's another tool that people can practice in terms of dream recall. And the most important thing is to get out there, get a dream book, start interpreting your dreams, because one of the greatest tools to help remember your dreams is having a desire to do so. So when you create a desire based on, reading books and seeing how cool dream information is, then when you have a desire, your mind's going to cooperate and say, oh, okay, she wants to remember the dreams. And then it becomes a habit like anything else, like eating breakfast. Every morning you get that dream pad open and you start writing your dreams.
So yeah, because I would find it almost impossible consciously right now to not only remember my dreams, but even if I did, to be able to interpret them. But there are, like you say, dream interpretation books.
Well, yes, and of course I would recommend the one I co-wrote with my husband, which is Naked and Public Dream Symbols Revealed. And I love it because it's got a great system that's universal. It's not just willy-nilly, oh, this means this and this means that. No, we actually have a system we teach to be able to decode the symbols. And once people get that down, they have a method for understanding how to go through this process to understand the symbols.
Okay. Well, that book, I believe it's been on screen, or it's on screen now as well. Okay, so that's So that's the way to interpretate them. Oh, that's a way in. But I just want to go back to this higher self. It seems to me that over the months that I've been doing this work and my own personal spiritual journey as well, this higher self is key to so much stuff. This part of us, if you want to call it that, if that is what it is, this part of us, this greater part of us that resides in the plane where we came from. It's part of us is still home, if you want to call it that, or in heaven, or whatever, however you want to personify it. It's this part of us is so powerful that it wouldn't interfere with our life, in the sense it wouldn't tell us what to do, but one way it comes through is through dreams, and it's given us hints or pointers on the issues that we're going through, or the best path for us should we choose to take it with complete free will. It's almost undescribable what this part is, but it's coming through in the dream, isn't it?
Well, let me clarify what I believe is going on. It's not so much that the dreams are an avenue for the subconscious to give us advice. Rather, most dreams that are symbolic. Now, there are people who do have prophetic dreams, which the subconscious is warning us of a possible future event that we need to be aware of. But when we talk about symbolic dreams, it's not so much the subconscious or the higher self giving us advice, but it's basically like a playback scenario. And it's reflecting back to us our thoughts and attitudes about the previous day. So it's just helping us become more aware of what's going on in those inner levels of our thinking, as opposed to giving us advice in that respect.
Okay, I'll just pause that there. Just bear with me. Wait for that phone to go. Yeah, okay, cool. I'll edit that out. Yes, right. Okay. Okay, well, that's your opinion, and that's perfect, and that's exactly what it could be. And I may be completely wrong, or I may be a bit right, or it's a bit of both, or whatever. But I do feel that the higher self, the God aspect, that's how powerful we are. That's how powerful the higher self is. It's God. Does come through, and is coming through.
Well, yes, and also another interesting event that can occur while we're sleeping is a type of dream which we call the visitation dream. And that's where we can actually communicate with other souls who have passed on that are in spirit. And because we are in that state where the conscious mind isn't interfering, we're on the astral plane. The subconscious, the higher self, can be in direct communication with those souls and entities of past loved ones and so forth that have important messages for us to communicate with us. So that's another wonderful thing that happens during that dream state.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. It really is. And is that the same as significant as people appearing in the dreams? Is that what you would say that is, or is that something different when people appear in dreams?
Well, we're always most likely going to have somebody appear in the dream. It's usually not just us. So in a visitation dream, what we would tell people is that if the lips of the person are not moving, that typically means there's just mental communication going on from my mind to the other person. And so in that sense, it is most likely a visitation. Now, when other people appear in the dream, basically they are aspects of ourselves. So when somebody appears in your dream and they're not, just communicating mentally, but their lips are moving, they're talking as if they were, another figure in the dream, then what we tell people is, okay, describe that person's qualities in 2 words. So they might say, funny and kind. So we would say, okay, so that means that you, the previous day, were exhibiting the qualities of humor and kindness. Okay, those are aspects of ourselves. So people are great ways to get deeper understanding of ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we're always like that, but it means the previous day in some way we exhibited those qualities.
Right. Okay. But you can, I mean, just getting to the core of it here, you can use dreams to create success in life, can't you?
Definitely. And there have been countless stories of people who have used the dream state to receive insights and guidance. So, before going to bed, if you do want guidance on a problem, you need information on something, you can definitely ask before you go to bed. I need some insight on this issue. And chances are you will receive some insight in the dream state. So, for example, Albert Einstein, there was actually somebody who wrote a book about his dream life because he had so many rich dreams with information that came through. He even attributes his theory of relativity to information that he received in the dream state. Thomas Howe, who created the sewing machine, or Elias Howe, he was, obviously already, involved in the invention of the sewing machine, but he got stuck where he couldn't figure out how that thread was going to get through the cloth or whatever. And so he kept thinking about that issue, and he had a dream where he was surrounded by like aborigines of some sort, and they all had these spears, but he looked at the top of the spear and they all had a hole at the top, like a needle on a sewing machine. And he woke up from that dream and he was like, that's what I need to do. And there needs to be a hole at the end of the needle, just like he saw in his dream. So it is amazing. Also, another cool story that I share, especially when I do presentations for children, is I tell them about Paul McCartney. And he heard the music for Yesterday in his dream. And he woke up and he's like, this is just an amazing tune, but it must already have been done. So he went around to different people and, he played the tune and he said, have you heard this before? And they're like, no. And so eventually when everybody said no, he said, okay, I'm going to do this song. And he got that through a dream. So you definitely can receive insights.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Okay. Yeah, it's another way of hacking into it's almost like another way of hacking into the spiritual side that we come from,
Exactly.
where all answers maybe do reside.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, the true essence of us. Okay, and well, yeah, that if we're able to ask questions or ask for advice, can we also see into the future as well? Do you think? Do you think that's possible to see future scenarios?
Well, it is because, the conscious mind is very limited. It sees the past and it sees the present. But for our conscious mind to look beyond that, it's very difficult because it has the boundaries, right? The structure, but the subconscious mind has no boundaries. So it can see past, present, and future. And so when we go into that dream state, we turn off that conscious mind and we move into that subconscious, which has no boundaries. And so it can move to the future and show us possible future events. A few people, or a small minority of people, do have what we call those prophetic dreams where they will see an event in the future. And we always tell people those types of dreams usually are more vivid than your typical symbolic dream. They're very real, exactly like real life would be. In other words, you're not going to have a serious scenario with pigs flying in the background. That's not going to be a symbolic or futuristic dream. It's going to be something very real. And so what we tell people is, well, first look at the dream symbolically and see if it has any merit. And then if you do believe it is showing you a possible future event, then people have to decide what they're going to do with that information. If it involves other people, are you going to mention something to a person if they're in danger? And that's a big choice for some people if they're going to say anything to other people because they might be labeled crazy or laughed at. But I always say, well, that's a small price as opposed to if you don't say anything and something happens. that could have been avoided.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I know people have had those types of dreams, and and especially when they then watch them back on TV, what they dreamed about. That happened to my mother. That was there was a shooting massacre that took place years ago, and she dreamed it the day before, and it did happen the next day. So that was quite profound. That was. When we dream, I've been told by some that it's potential, that the body may be resting, but the soul, which we can't remember this sometimes, but the soul's off, leaving the body, going back to the astral plane.
Exactly. Yeah. While our body's rejuvenating, the soul doesn't need that. It's ready to go, and so it's free to roam that astral plane where all the other entities without bodies are. What some people would consider. The astral plane is, rich in information. It's kind of like the main server for computers, you could say, the internet, where you can connect with other people. That's why on some occasions, two people will report having the exact same dream, which means that they actually were meeting up on the astral plane. There's a lot of people who are deeply involved in spirituality that say they meet up with spiritual masters and other like-minded people on the astral plane at night and are doing work on other levels. So we are definitely very active from the soul's perspective at night, which is why getting sleep is so important.
Absolutely. And what would you say are some of the most common dreams that people have?
Okay, well, one of them is based on the title of our book, Naked in Public. So we've had so many people call up that have the dream where all of a sudden they look down and they're completely naked and they're in a public setting. And so it is the title we chose because it has a double meaning. So first of all, being naked in a dream reveals that that previous day you were being very open and honest in your communication. And of course, when you interpret dreams, you're really exposing your true self. So that's the double entendre of the title. Another really common dream is you are back at high school. If you're an adult, you're back at high school, you're looking for your classroom. Either you can't find the classroom, or you're late to school, or you're taking your test and you fail it. And that is very common, especially among middle-aged men, because especially those people who are caught up in, the corporate race to get up the ladder and so forth. So basically what that shows is it's an anxiety feeling that you're not prepared for life in some way, because school would be a place of learning. And so when you're late, you're just not feeling prepared for life. If you flunk the test, you don't feel like you have enough knowledge or that you're prepared to handle what's going on in your life. So it's a very common dream. Also, many people also have the flying dream, which more successful people or people who tend to be very free-thinking and positive have those flying dreams. Because flying, if you think about in the physical world, if you were able to fly, that's probably the most liberating feeling we could have while in a body, right? And so to be able to get that, it really relates to a type of thinking where we feel like we can do and be anything. We're very positive in our thinking. We don't have limitations, so we can take off, so to speak. And it's just feels wonderful to have those flying dreams. So I always tell people, well, if you've had a flying dream, think about what was your mindset the previous day, because you want to keep that going, because that kind of mindset will literally help you fly mentally.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had both there, going back to school a number of times, but being lucid enough to know where I'm back. I'm back there, but being angry that I was there, in a sense, or actually, feelings of nostalgia actually being there. And yeah, flying as well, and then sometimes being aware that you're flying, and then you fall straight down, and it's the free fall feeling then, which is always a bit shocking. Well, let's move this into nightmares then, in a sense. Why do we have these nightmares where we're being chased sometimes and we can't get away, or it's a repeated nightmare of some sort?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I actually wrote a children's book about this because so many parents have this problem with their children having nightmares, adults too. So anyway, a nightmare has to do with the type of thinking where we feel out of control in our life. We feel that we're a victim, that we don't really have the power to create what we want. And because in the dream of a nightmare, you have some big monster or somebody chasing you. So you're the victim, and the monster's big and overpowering, and you feel like, you're being victimized by this thing. So children have that dream a lot because they usually have to follow all the rules and regulations of everybody around them. Their parents are telling them what to do, their teacher. So a lot of kids feel like, oh, I have no control in my life. I have no power. I have no say in what I do. So they start feeling like a victim. And so this dream can easily be changed around for children if parents will begin to give their child more choices in life. Okay, well, I'm still going to ultimately decide for you, but I'm going to give you some choices here. Some simple things like that can help kids feel empowered. Teaching kids about visualization is one way to empower them, so that even if they do have to follow rules from others, they still feel like they can create some of the things they want through visualization. And the same thing for adults. They have to realize and claim their creative power through visualization, positive affirmations, realize that, if they're a victim, they're doing it to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. So these are some ways to stop it, is to take ownership of it as well.
Exactly, yes. And most people want those kind of dreams to end, so they're willing to take some steps, because they're definitely not pleasant, and they often can wake children up out of a sleep as well as adults. So we definitely, don't want that kind of dream interfering with our sleep all the time.
No, not if you've got kids. That's a bit of a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah, in itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. A nightmare within a nightmare. Okay, and your work's all about doing things, with couples and relationships, and so basically, as we were saying earlier on, you embrace the dreams and the relationship work together sometimes.
I do. Basically, any kind of issues people are having with relationships, the first place I start with them is I say, well, getting greater self-awareness is the key to having successful relationships with others. And so one way to get to know ourselves better, our true selves, is through dream interpretation. Because like I said, anybody who appears in your dream is an aspect of you. It's a way that you think. And so some people aren't even aware of that. So that's a great place to begin, is using dreams, number one, to create greater self-awareness. And then number two, if we want to deepen our relationships with another person, a great activity to engage in is interpreting each other's dreams. I mean, my husband and I do it all the time, and it's so fun because it takes things beyond the superficial of how was your day to, hey, let me tell you about this dream, and then we get into this deep discussion about what it could mean and how it relates to our life together, and it really brings in a whole new element to a relationship.
Yeah, and I'll say it again. I'm bashing on this tin, but it really is one way to get into that best part of yourself, which is that deeper, all-knowing part of yourself as well, which I call the higher self. I think it's a road in. I really do.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. And also one aspect we haven't covered here, getting into relationships, is obviously some dreams can have a sexual aspect as well. Yeah, and
Yes,
it's not always that we talk about that. Yeah, but it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, sex in a dream indicates that the person is harmonizing or cooperating with another part of themselves to potentially create something. So what we would tell a person is, okay, whoever you're having sex with in the dream, think of 2 words to describe that person. And that is the part of yourself that you are currently working with. That type of thinking you're harmonizing with, you're using it. And it is wonderful. And you have the potential to create something with it. Hence, when you have sex, you have the potential of creating a baby, right? So in a dream, a baby represents a new idea. So having sex with somebody in the dream means that you're actively, mentally creating things that could result in something really big.
Right.
So,
a complete different understanding of what some people would think of it as well.
yeah, because a lot of people get nervous and they say, oh my gosh, does this mean, if I'm having sex with somebody else besides my partner, does that mean I'm a bad person. Am I wanting to cheat on them and all this? And it can cause relationship difficulties when people think that they're harboring this, suppressed desire for another person. And
Yeah.
really, it just means that um, they like that particular quality of the other person, or they're actually, you know, have that quality within themselves and they're actively using it. So it's a
Yeah.
wonderful thing.
That's
And
true.
again, just like the flying dream, I tell people, hey, whatever you were doing, the day before you had that sexual dream, you can keep creating with that part of yourself to create more harmony. And that benefits the person greatly and can result in a lot of wonderful creations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still think there's aspects of the dream work that we are just, well, we're still learning, aren't we? It's still an area that's just so untapped in a sense of what this, the potential of what this really is. Yet we all do it, don't we? I mean, it's we just think it's something, a byproduct of being human, but I think it's much greater than that.
Oh, I do. I mean, I'm always learning, and I feel like there's always going to be more to learn. If we look back in it, dreams have been a subject for centuries among different religions and cultures, and they've all
That's,
had, different
yeah,
ideas. And Freud and Carl Jung helped bring about, more knowledge that, well, the dream could actually be about the dreamer. So, yeah, throughout history, we've been continually, I think, amazed and intrigued by the dreams. And I think the more that we pursue them and talk about them and bring it out into the open, the greater awareness we'll have, and the closer to our own souls, we'll get.
Yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Absolutely, the closer to our soul we may get. Yes, that part of us, the true essence, the true energy essence of who we are.
Yeah,
Mm.
and another benefit of dream interpretation, talking about that, is people who actively, interpret their dreams and remember them, are usually intuitive, and the intuition builds as you build on remembering the dreams and recalling them. Because what happens is every time you recall a dream, you're allowing that conscious and subconscious to blend together, because the subconscious is basically infiltrating into your conscious mind. And so, where does intuition come from? It comes from that higher self. So I find myself, the more that I'm actively, remembering my dreams and interpreting them on a regular basis, my intuition is more on key. But when I get real stressed out, or I'm just so busy, maybe a couple days I'm not paying attention to the dreams, I'm not as intuitive and picking up on as many signals. So that in itself is just a great reason to keep plugging along and doing your dreams and interpreting them.
Absolutely, and it was something I read in the Seth book recently, because I've got someone from the Seth organization coming on, Jane Roberts at Channel Seth. Seth said that once you leave a dream, that dream continues.
I think that's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Yeah,
At the last Transformation Conference with Dolores Cannon 2 years ago, when she was still alive, they got into a discussion about alternate realities, and how when we may have a choice in front of us and we're thinking of different choices we could make, and we may make one choice, but in our mind we could begin living out, well, if I had taken a different route, how would that have turned out? And on other realities, we could be living out the other choice. So I think you could tie that into dreams and say, we're living out possibly different realities through the dream state. That's a possibility.
yeah, absolutely. Well, moving this into relationships, which the dream work is so addictive to keep on to keep on discussing it. But I think we need to just this is your work. This is what you do, and relationships is a big part of this. And okay, let's look at relationships in the sense of compatibility then between two people. Can dreams reveal compatibility between two people in a relationship?
They can definitely reveal the degree of harmony presently going on between the two people. In other words, if you are fighting with people in a dream, and if that person is your partner, that does reveal that aspect that your partner represents to you. For example, again, let's say you think your partner is creative and funny, let's say. And if you're fighting with your partner in your dream, it means not that you may not be getting along with him or her in real life, but it means that within yourself, you are not harmonizing with the part of yourself that's creative and funny. So it could, again, play out in your relationship, because if you're not liking that part of yourself within, you may take that outwardly and start fighting with your partner.
Yeah.
But in terms of
Yeah.
overall compatibility, because dreams really are just showing, replay of your thoughts and attitudes about the previous day, I don't think there's such a good indication of compatibility, unless, of course, you are receiving some, prophetic information about future, that this person may not be the best for you. That is another possibility that could be coming through in the dream state. So I would not discount that at all.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. But how do you determine the compatibility, if I can get the word out, level between two people?
Well, I use the 6 paths that I use when I help people understand their life purpose. So I will use astrology, and we'll do synastry charts. We'll compare the two people's charts and look at how does one person's planet affects the other. And it's never a blanket statement, oh, you are compatible or you aren't. There's always levels of compatibility. And through astrology, you can see how the planets interact. You understand one person's influences and the others. And you just lay it out on the table and say, this is their influences. This is how they respond to life. This is how they're most likely to nurture, and how they are in their love styles and what they're going to like. And then you can decide, is this something that I want for the rest of my life? Right? The same thing with numerology. We can do the numbers of two people. And then you see, okay, this person's life path number is maybe a 9 and mine is a 4. Well, maybe that's showing that we really have two very different life paths. And can they blend? Well, that's up to the two people to decide. There's always more than one factor involved. When we do an astrology reading, there's an hour or more we could talk about each person's chart. So there's many factors that we have to look at. And so there's always, going to be usually some compatibility and then some issues of conflict. But of course, if you're talking about like a mate relationship, you want that, sexual interest between the two. And if that's there, there can be some disharmony in other areas, but, that will compensate. So we have to look at the overall picture. Another key factor that we look at when we're determining compatibility in relationships is I do a past life reading for people. A past life relationship reading will reveal a past life that they have had together, what the issues were, the karma, etc. And then the second part of the reading, we look at what is the purpose of these two people coming together. Now, my husband and I do the Edgar Cayce style readings. And so we are able to really get to the root of why two people came together. And if there's issues from the past that they need to work out, that comes to the surface so people can see what they have to work out. And once they get over the karmic issues and things, it can be smooth sailing. And maybe it's only meant to go to a certain point where lessons need to be learned, and then the couple or the two people go their separate ways. But the information that comes through in that past life reading is key for understanding what needs to be learned between the two people. And if they have similar missions, they can figure out, okay, do we want to work on this mission together? And then we can also look at palmistry and iris analysis. And again, those are just studies similar to numerology and astrology, where we can see people's influences and how they respond to life and see how the two people are going to mesh together. And then I really explain to people, you cannot change another person to your liking. When you see all their charts, you understand their influences. We tend to understand the person better and say, okay, well, I understand now more why he or she acts like she does. I understand their influences. And yes, I want to, spend my life supporting and working with their influences in mine. Or, that really just is not what I'm looking for. And then, you can move on. So that's how I approach compatibility.
Yeah, and oh gosh, this is so interesting. So many questions here right now in my head, and I know we've just not got the time for it. But okay, just you mentioned conflict there as well. What are some of the ways to overcome conflict in a relationship?
Well, usually I say it starts within the individual themselves. So a lot of times people have their own issues that they project onto somebody else. So if I'm unhappy within myself and I don't want to deal with it, I'm going to project it on my partner and start fighting with him or blaming him. That's very common. So the first key to dealing with conflict is looking within and saying, where am I unhappy? Where am I in conflict with my own self? Because everybody else is really just a mirror for ourselves. So I teach other people are a mirror for ourselves. So when we're upset with another person, I have an amazing exercise in the book that I teach called the trigger list, where I teach people how to identify the 10 top things that are bothering them in the other person that they're in conflict with, and then take the focus off the other person because you're not going to change them and it's not about that. And then what we do is I teach the person to look within and see how they are doing those same things. It's a little more in depth, but that's the basis of the exercise, so it brings all the attention back to themselves. And so we use relationships as a mirror for our own self. So in some ways, conflict can be great because it helps us see what's out of balance within ourselves. Because whenever we're around somebody and that person we feel tense around, we feel uncomfortable, or we're in pain, that's a direct signal that there's something in ourselves that's being triggered that needs healing. And then once we heal that, a couple things will happen. Number one, the relationship is great again. Number two, the person disappears from our life because we no longer need that stimulus to learn something. So many different things can happen when we make those changes within. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing to resolving conflict in relationship is really to come and get readings from a practitioner. And that is a third objectionable, a party that's going to look at them not from a motive or anything, but just to say, hey, these are what I see in the astrology charts. This is what I see in the numerology charts for you too. So it really gives them a different perspective. And then, of course, we know, what Einstein said, you can never solve a problem from the level that it was created. So you've got to go beyond, the physical, and the counseling can work for a time. But I teach a lot of emotional release techniques where we get beyond the conscious mind and go straight to that subconscious mind and higher self through a process. One of them is intuitive breathing, or sometimes called rebirthing, where we get so deep, we go beyond all that superficial stuff and get to the core. Homeopathic remedies can help bring things up. So, getting beyond the physical. And counseling is okay, but we're up in our head when we're doing that. And we want to get beyond that to go deeper.
Yeah, gosh, where am I going to go from here? Some people just meet up, don't they? And they're married in a couple of weeks. That can happen. That's not uncommon, is it?
I have actually, and one couple that comes to my mind. They were both interested in metaphysics, heavily involved in that study, and they got married within 2 months of knowing each other, I think. So anyway, they wanted to figure out, what was the purpose of their relationship. And so they did get a past life reading and discovered that they had been together in a past life, and their relationship was cut short because one of the two passed away very quickly after they got involved in the relationship. And so they felt like they had so much unfinished business. So this lifetime, when they got together, it was just a knowing that they weren't going to waste any time. And got together very quickly. So it does happen. And, there's a lot of planetary factors when there's a strong past life connection. Also, a lot of times when there's a strong chemistry with those planets, that can be a very attractive force. It doesn't mean it's always going to be permanent. So it's good to still check in, I think, with somebody and get some readings to figure out what's going on, what's the attraction about. to see if it's really something that's meant for long term. Sometimes, relationships are meant, like I said, to simply learn a lesson and then it's time to move on.
Yeah, and I think different cultures come from this from a different perspective. Yeah, so different cultures would want marriage pretty much soon. Other cultures would not. I think my culture, being British, is quite laid back about that, and I'm probably sure in America it's not the first thing to do. Sometimes I don't think it's a bad thing, that if you like someone that you get married to them. I don't think that's. I mean, you've got to be ready for that, but I think we I don't know, nowadays, really, dating and relationships, it's also digital, isn't it? It's also online. It's also impersonal a lot, isn't it? Um, I I'm still a bit old-fashioned. I still think, if destiny is going to happen, then you'll probably meet them in person. Or I'm not saying that dating online doesn't work. I'm just saying that sometimes if it's not flowing, there's a reason for it. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. Sometimes, a person's lonely and they want so bad for a relationship, they kind of force it when it's not time. And, the soul is so powerful. We are so powerful. I believe that we really create and set up our life before we're born. And so the people that we are supposed to meet, we have it all set up. And so, the subconscious mind, we just have to trust that if we are meant to be with somebody or meet somebody, we're going to find a way to hook up with that person some way, whether it's through the internet, through a blind date, or whatever. But there's so many interesting stories of how couples got together. You have to wonder, wow, I don't think the conscious mind could have orchestrated all that. I think there
No.
is a bigger part of ourselves that's getting people together from all parts of the world when they're meant to be together. And so I have full faith that whatever means the subconscious will bring us to the people that we're meant to be with.
You could bump into someone and it just seems too good. It seems too easy. It seems to be. Could it be that simple that you could bump into someone and they want to be with you, yet you've always got that thing in your head. Well, is there something ulterior to it, or where's the bigger picture in this? It's very difficult sometimes to really to listen to that gut feeling and try to figure out what it's telling you.
It is, our intuition always gets, interfered with by the conscious mind of analyzing, trying to figure things out. And when a relationship is really easy between two people, then we begin to doubt it. We think, oh, it's too easy. It couldn't be this easy, And I think everybody's karma and purpose and lessons are so different. We can't really compare our relationship to other people's. Some people have a lot of lessons to learn through relationships, and so they have marriages and divorces and ups and downs, and it doesn't mean it's bad. It means that maybe they're on an accelerated path to growth and they created all those kinds of rocky road relationships to learn a lot of lessons quickly. Other people have lessons in other areas of life, and so their relationships might be smooth sailing, but they may have challenges in their career. So I think we need to not compare ourselves so much to others' relationships, and as much as we can tune into that intuition and see what's going on for us. And again, if our intuition is blocked, I do think that the 6 paths I've talked about, the astrology, the palmistry, the past life readings, are all great ways to help us see if our intuition is blocked.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what advice would you give to for someone to attract the soulmate that they're potentially looking for?
Well, a little different approach that I teach is, the common approach is, oh, make a list of everything you want in another person. Well, that's okay, and I would suggest doing that at some point. However, the first thing I would do is I would write a list about what it is that you want to bring to somebody else in a relationship. What do you want to offer somebody else? Because you're coming from the standpoint of giving. And so you could make your list, I want to offer my friendship, I want to offer, my talents, whatever it is. And so you're putting that vibration out into the universe of what you want to give. And at the same time, you can also, make your list of what you want to receive in somebody else. And that's much more powerful than just doing a one-way list of what you want to get from somebody else. That's one thing we can do. And then start being the person that we want to be in relationship. If we want somebody who's funny and upbeat and yet we're depressed and negative all the time, well, we're probably not going to attract that positive person. So we need to be that positive person. And then something else we can do, to really attract somebody that we want is to pay attention to our deep subconscious thoughts about our own selves. Like, do we feel we're unworthy of a relationship? Do we criticize ourselves? Because whatever we do to ourselves, we're going to attract somebody else that does that. So we have to start treating ourselves how we want other people to treat us. So if I say I want somebody who treats me with respect, well, do I treat myself with respect? So I have to start with the relationship with myself first and treat myself well. And that's another great way to attract somebody great, because if we're treating ourselves with love and respect, that's what we're going to get back. There's a great quote, I think it was Wayne Dyer, who said, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. That's powerful.
Yeah, because it's putting all the responsibility back to you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where it should be. I think it should be there. No judgment here at all. Some people, no, people are where they're supposed to be. Yet I see a lot of people never giving themselves any breaks. They'll just go from one relationship to the other, and no breaks whatsoever. And you think to yourself, surely you should give yourself some time between the last and the next, just so that you are attracting the right person. Because otherwise, isn't it just the same thing we attract all the time otherwise?
Definitely. I mean, if we don't learn the lesson from one person, most likely we're going to draw it to ourselves again, because the soul has one goal, which is to learn. And so it has no problem going through heartache after heartache until that lesson's learned. So we can definitely make it easy on ourselves and do some processing in between relationships. We've all seen somebody who marries the same person over and over again, the same lessons. And so a break will definitely help avoid that pattern if we can really get in touch and process that relationship and do the inner work we need to do to create a relationship that is satisfying if the ones we're having are not. Definitely.
I think most people that are in that cycle don't feel they're worthy of giving themselves that time. There's addictions to sex. There's all sorts of addictions going on. Abuse maybe of that sacred space, I think, more than addictions. A misunderstanding of themselves, and they think they've got it all worked out, yet they're just back in that cycle that we're talking about. So, and that's trying to be non-judgmental when I say that, but I just see that.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's just, being honest about it. And that really can help people more, being honest and bringing it to their attention.
Yes. But then there are those out there with the opposite. They feel very lonely. They haven't met the right people. They haven't met anybody that they would feel was the right person. But I think it goes back to what we were saying, that how do you feel about yourselves? It was someone that said to me something recently that, anyone that may be alone because actually at the deepest core of themselves, they don't feel lovable enough to be with anyone. They don't feel lovable enough to be in love with themselves.
Yeah.
And if you can't love yourself, how can you be with anyone else?
Yeah, and the idea of being lonely, the feeling of being lonely, is an interesting one because, we've all known that we can be in a room full of people, surrounded by people, and still feel lonely. So when people feel lonely, what's really going on is they are feeling separated or out of contact with their own inner self. And so they're reaching out, trying to get that connection. And it's only temporary, because until they really feel connected to their inner self, there will always be that sense of loneliness. So you can, be not in a serious relationship for years and years and years and be extremely happy if you have that inner connection. So when people tell me they're lonely, or even if I start feeling lonely, I'll be like, wow, I haven't been giving attention to my inner self. And that can make a huge difference, because then when you get that connection with your inner self, you feel fulfilled, you're not desperate. And then guess what? You end up bringing this great relationship to you, not because you need it, but because it's just fulfilling and it comes from a total different standpoint of energy.
And you will appreciate it as that relationship blossoms into maybe a family as well one day and more. Not that you need a family to do that, to experience that, but it's a great thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And how can you know the opposite if you don't know the opposite? That makes, how can you experience anything without knowing opposites sometimes?
Yep. Yeah, we do learn through the duality. So, a period of loneliness can definitely help.
But then be careful that when someone does come along, you might also be being tested as well to say, okay, right, so you think you've got to that level where you can, you won't have, you will now feel that you're empowered to find that right person, and you're going to be so happy when it's all settled down because you'll always appreciate it because of the lack of it now. Let's just give you a little test. Here's someone. Is she right for you? Is he right for you? What do you feel? What's your feelings telling you on this one? And are you going to go with your feelings and it's going to be wrong? Well, nothing's wrong, but are you actually going to go with your feelings on this one?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's life's a strange way of testing people. So, yeah, it's not always straightforward. I guess that's my point. Yeah.
I would say that, people are our greatest triggers for our karma, for helping us learn lessons. So, there are those rare individuals that can go off into a cave and meditate for 50 years and become enlightened. But for the majority of us, we really need the engagement with other people to learn our lessons, which will ultimately lead us to our own enlightenment.
Yeah, and it's not always an easy path.
Oh, no.
No.
But it can be fulfilling, and gets better and better.
Yes. True. And it starts sometimes. It always starts with yourself, and then I think the ripple effect of that work on yourself is even for manifestation, other things. Everything just becomes easier, and then in the end, you realize how powerful that you are, and that all answers do lie within, and actually what you were looking for was always within, in a sense. And, you can have the life you want, and that's what you provide as well. Now, so basically, people can get in contact with you via your website.
Yes, www.kathrynandries.com.
Okay, and just a final message for the audience, because I know we're almost out of time here, but what would you say is the most important message of your work?
I think is that we all have a purpose. Everybody has a very important mission that they came here to fulfill. So everybody is extremely important. You have a mission and the answers are there. There's numerous paths to find those answers, so don't give up, because every question that you have, all you're seeking in your quest to find your purpose, you will find the answers if you continue to seek.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been a pleasure.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.